For example, I know of a guy, a Canadian guy, that just drove over the border from Canada to the US, and he was allowed in, but because his wife was not Canadian, she was European, the US immigration didn't let his wife in.
This is a baked pasta dish. It looks like homemade gnocchi made out of red potatoes, and then some red sauce, and then there's some mozzarella and Parmesan cheese layered on the top.
I could go on for... Angela, you need to put more cheese on that.
I don't want it.
It's mine.
It's cheesy stuff. Look at all that cheese. That is cheesy stuff.
You already put cheese on yours.
Watch out, watch out. I don't... No cheese on them.
That'll get mine.
Alright. Remove yourself. You think we can get both the pie and the pasta in there?
We can't. It's not gonna work.
Hey there, in case anyone was still wondering, we are still in our $300 apartment, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, mostly furnished. And yes, it's true, we have over 1,000 videos on Ecuador alone, and we've been abroad 10 years and have never paid more than $300 or $400 for 3- and 4-bedroom houses and apartments, furnished and unfurnished. But what I wanted to talk about was laws change very quickly in some of these smaller countries, a lot of times without notice and without warning. Every few months things can be different, and what happened is it caught a lot of people that came down here because they put like a new requirement for different paperwork, and so it caused a lot of people to temporarily be quote unquote illegal, or as they say in Mexico, irregular. You know, your status is irregular. Now, the difference between what I notice and what I see between the attitudes of some Americans and the attitudes from being abroad here, specifically in Ecuador, and I'm sure in a lot of other places, that the attitude of Americans seems to be particular, really particular to Americans, and they really stand out. These particular Americans, not all of them, but there seems to be an awful lot of Americans that just really think they really know, you know, they're the ones that know how things should be. And so when we came down here and we saw all of these Americans all of a sudden, through no fault of their own, become irregular, or also known as illegal aliens. Matter of fact, the president addressed the situation directly, which is pretty amazing, and told the expats not to worry, they weren't going to be, you know, harassed or persecuted or anything like that. There was a lot of patience, in other words, coming from the people in authority, and that was pretty amazing. It was really pretty amazing to see, and to me that was a real good example of the lack of politics. In other words, laissez-faire, leave it be, you know, hands off. And it was more of a hands-off, leave it be approach. And it let people be, and eventually the situation straightened itself out over a period of time. Whereas in North America, people seem very convinced that the solution to their problem is politics. You know, the solution to their problem is interference, as opposed to leave it be and laissez-faire. The opposite of that would be interference by the government, always regulating people and in an effort to make things better in the minds of the people. You know, when you look at what politics has done, when you look at the record, what does the record show? Well, and I just want to give a disclaimer real quick, this channel is not partisan. We do not promote one party over another, and we don't discuss politics. But being that we're here and we do observe, we're not going to, you know, close our eyes to things, and it's current events. And so just to talk about the difference between the attitudes of when you go abroad and how people's attitudes that you notice, even to this day, is certain Americans think that politics is the solution. And when you had Trump in there, what did he do? Well, he denied everybody. Put America first. Nothing wrong with putting America first, right? But he denied everybody. Everybody was an illegal. You know, it's just the total extreme of laissez-faire or tolerance, as you might call it. So Trump was one extreme, right? And he can't be faulted for wanting to make America great and putting America first. But this is a perfect example how, regardless what side of politics on, no one man or politician really has all the answers. Is it possible to ever be able to depend on one politician to get everything right? I've never seen it. When you look at like Ronald Reagan, right? Ronald Reagan, he called the year of the Bible, didn't he? Remember that? If you're too young, you might not remember that. But what else did Ronald Reagan do? How can a guy that calls the year of the Bible, right, sign stuff into law that gives protection where you can't sue manufacturers of these chemicals they want to jab into people, right? And you can't sue them if they end up maiming and killing people. What? I mean, to my mind, that's mind-boggling. Who does that? Who approves such legislation? Okay, so that's what I'm saying. Just thinking that you're going, you know, that the solutions to problems in this world are going to come from politics. I don't see any examples anywhere where that's true. Okay, so we talked about Trump, put America first. Ronald Reagan, I'm sure he did a lot of good things, but did he have all the answers? Absolutely not. So then, but you look at Biden, right? So what is he doing? Well, the stated thing is to have a more fair immigration system, which, hey, nothing wrong with that. Let me tell you, I've said in other videos, plenty of unfairness in the immigration system. And so to make more fairness is to wanting to reunite families. Great. You've got all these asylum seekers that are getting a lot of attention. You've got a lot of illegals that are getting a lot of attention. And, you know, look, I'm not taking sides on any of these. I'm just wanting to make this video to show how no one in politics seems to have all the answers. Because there are many people that want to be going to U.S. legally. They want to be able to legally go to the U.S. They want to go through the process. As Trump was, you know, like to say, go through the process, right? So there's people that want to go through the process. They don't want to go in legally. And by the way, you have to ask yourself, why does somebody need to be coming in legally if there's a process? Well, there must be something wrong with the process if they feel the need to come in and go around that process. There must be something wrong with the process. It must be discriminatory. It must not be a fair process. So you've got Biden that wants to make it more fair, which is great. Wants to reunite families. That's great. But reuniting families, there's so much focus on illegals, and yet you've got all these people that are, for example, reuniting families. How is a husband and a wife not a family? I mean, the beginning of a family, right there in Genesis says, when a man leaves his father and mother, he cleaves onto his wife and they become one, right? So they become one. For example, I know of a guy, a Canadian guy, that just drove over the border from Canada to the US. And he was allowed in, but because his wife was not Canadian, she was European, the US immigration didn't let his wife in. Can you imagine? That is mind-boggling. But to me, you know, if you want to make the system more fair, you can start right there. People that are coming in legally and their families, husbands and wives, are being split up because of some kind of cockamamie, arbitrary kind of thinking that is some sort of anti-foreigner. And you see this. Americans love their boogeyman. They love their foreigner boogeyman. It's just this boogeyman mentality, this fear. And I'm not saying there aren't bad people. I mean, anytime you deal with the general public like this, you're going to have the bad apples and the good apples. But I'm saying that to think that this guy has all the answers or that guy has all the answers, I haven't seen it. You know, you've got so much unfairness in the system, whether Trump's in power or whether Biden's in power, there's still so much unfairness in the immigration system. And you can't get any kind of wisdom from the public because they have that boogeyman, fear of the boogeyman. And Americans have been unhappy for many decades. One amazing thing about dealing with expats here is that I get to deal, and providing services in the States, is that I get to meet and talk to so many different people in life, in different stations in life. And I have met so many expats, people that moved down here to Ecuador, that told me, you know, they are mature people that have told me how it was back in the 50s. And one lady told me, yeah, back in the 50s in New York, we lived in New York, and I could just get a job. And this is not a particularly professional job or super high-tech skilled job. Just a job, okay? Working in a store or something. And she could get her pay, and they could pay all their bills, including their rent, off of that job, and have only one person working in the family, right? Not two, and still have money left over at the end of the month. Now, you take that scenario, and you fast forward to today, where two people can be working in the household and they're still struggling. They're heavily in debt. They can barely keep up with their debt load, their payments, their mortgages, you know. And so you've got a lot of unhappiness. And when you have a lot of unhappiness, it seems like it's easy to find a scapegoat. Why, it's the foreigner's fault. It's their fault that we don't have enough water. It's their fault that we have more crime. It's their fault that we, you know, take your pick, make a list, and it's the foreigner's fault. On another note, I know through the grapevine that just crossed into the U.S. Without going through the proper channels. And I hear that he's shoveling snow for $25 an hour. Shoveling snow, okay? So he's shoveling snow, and people are like, oh, they're coming here and taking all our jobs. Okay, well, I don't know any Americans that are shoveling snow. Do you? If I was a billionaire, I'd offer $100 to everybody that can tell me, an American with a college degree or even not a college degree, that is shoveling snow and is afraid that some foreigner is going to come and take that job away from him. You know, I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but, you know, again, it's this boogeyman mentality that people, it just takes their eye off of what they really should be focusing on, and that's the humanity of people, and that we're all part of the same family of creation, and that people need to be respected just like you would respect your own body and your own self and your own family. You know, the guy is shoveling snow, and his plan is to save money. Imagine that. Work hard, save money. Hey, where did that get started, right? Back in the old days of America, that's what all the foreigners came in for, is to work hard, save money, and the guy wants to save money and start a business. And a lot of these foreigners that came in back in the day, back in the, you know, early 20th century, they started businesses that became huge companies. And the very reason why a lot of Americans are able to invest in the stock market and real estate is because foreigners like that came in, worked hard, and invested in businesses, started businesses, and some of them grew to be huge businesses. And the whole reason why a lot of you have a job in a large corp is because of those people, you know. So I'm just saying that there's so much hate. There's so much hate all over the internet in America towards foreigners. And when you go abroad, it's not necessarily like that. And you see a little bit more humanitarian, although ever since 2020, that's starting to change, and people are starting to be pitted one against the other. You know, oh, he doesn't have a mask on. Oh, you know, that kind of thing. So things are changing all over the globe. We're saddened to see that happen. But I just wanted to talk about how unfair the systems are and how people's attention is being distracted by this boogeyman mentality that they think they need to hate somebody or pick a boogeyman and make them responsible, the boogeyman, for all of the problems that they're having in life. Okay? All right, so I said all that to say that I am noticing now an awful lot of people that voted for the present administration that are extremely disappointed and unhappy. And then a lot of them are foreigners. And a lot of them are foreigners that aren't sneaking in, and they're, you know, married to U.S. citizens or married to a permanent residence, and they're being put on the back burner. You know, you see all these immigration lawyers talking all over the internet, and nobody talks about this. They all talk about you know, what's in the headlines, but nobody seems to care about just normal, everyday families, mom and dad. You know, how is mom and dad not the head of the family? I mean, you know, so I just thought I would make a video to highlight this, some of these issues in my videos that it seems like sometimes get neglected, and because there's a lot of people out there that are very disappointed, and they do feel neglected, and they are neglected. People that are married have an unalienable right to be together. You know, in other words, no individual or collective, also known as government, has the right to interfere with someone's family and marriage in the name of some kind of policy requiring certain paperwork or whatever. It's just, all they are is just barriers. You're just putting barriers in the way of families. And breaking up families, you know, is not, it's not an honorable thing to do. So no matter what the excuse is, it is not an honorable thing to do. So I hope I can inspire you to give a little more thought to what's right and what's wrong in the context of a much deeper understanding of creation, and rather than just superficially kind of addressing things in a really flaky, superficial kind of a way that you know, maybe everybody seems to be doing. You know, I mean, there's a much deeper understanding there that you know, sometimes is lacking, and I hope to encourage people to give that some thought. Thank you for watching the video, and have a nice day.